So in support of that, I wanted to talk to you a lot today about AI. It's pretty buzzwordy right now. I know you guys have been doing some research into that. So like, what if anything is Roblox using right now?
Yeah, so let me break that down a little bit because as you said, there's a lot of buzzwords, and what we're doing is not about the buzzwords. It's about, hey, what are new tools that we can bring to our community? So in the broader space of what game developers would call AI, so we've, for years we've had a pretty sophisticated pathfinding system, for example. Right? This is very different than ChatGPT or what people are calling AI today, but these are still bread and butter systems you need. And so, for example, our pathfinding, unlike most of the game engines I've worked on, is designed to sort of scale to novice users as well as experts. So we can take a world and you can say, I want to get from here to there, and you don't have to handcraft a lot of stuff. It knows things like the character can swim. This thing looks climbable. You don't even have to flag it. It'll realize, yeah, like those are stairs, or that's a ladder, or that's a wall I can climb. And so it's a pretty sophisticated pathfinder. And then on top of that, we have a use of a lot closer to what you would call AI today in a press sense, which is our moderation filters. A few years ago, we used to use traditional natural language processing. So basically, you take a sentence, you parse out noun, verb, you do keyword lookup on which words are allowed, all that kind of stuff. And we switched a few years ago to something based on a transformer model, which is what ChatGPT is. It's actually it's a very similar historical one. And we quickly found that we could train this deep neural net to replace all of our classical, keyword-based kind of traditional game text filtering, so that we could start moving to a world where it was entirely driven by AI tech. And so we've now had this deployed for about 2 years, and we've talked about this a lot publicly. So we're able to provide for your text-based communication this kind of unprecedented level of safety, because we take very seriously that we have all kinds of different players, different ages, different regions. And so we're able to really kind of up our game on how much better we can do at preventing people from saying inappropriate things, while at the same time getting rid of the false positives, so it's not frustrating if I'm just joking with my friend, right? So it kind of understands context, works in many languages, super important. Our platform is international. Sometimes you'll be in an experience with people in another country speaking another language. And so all of our tools have to work cross-language. We do natural language so for localization, if you traditional game development, part of your team are the people who translate your game. You wrote it in German, we go to English, we go to Chinese, we go to Korean. Our developers are often one-person shop or 10 people, and so the localization would be a huge burden for them. So we can use AI for that. So if you put a sign up in your game, you tell it what your language as the developer is, and then our system will automatically translate all the text in the game and figure out the appropriate font to fit things in. So those were kind of the early adoption AI tech, and that was really the transition from classical AI to deep neural networks and sort of modern machine learning driven AI. Those were huge successes. It made everything we did higher quality, faster, and it costs less. So we started embracing this across the company. We've now shipped our facial puppeteering. So it listens to the voice chat, and if you opt in, it'll turn on your selfie cam, and we process on your phone. So your video never leaves your phone for privacy reasons, because that's super important to us. We'll have your avatar, so the body is controlled by the in-game controls. So you might have a controller, you might be touch screen, but your face and your facial expressions are actually driven in real time to lip sync with the voice chat. And if you smile, and it even does your head turning. We've started using for some of our internal, so I have a meeting once a week with the heads of the 3D engine tech and the CEO. And we said, let's just move this meeting into Roblox instead of Zoom. And so we actually have that meeting where it's not a gaming experience at all. We're sitting on couches like this, but it's tracking our facial expressions and our voice, and you can see who someone's looking at. So I think that opens up all kinds of new stuff. So that's a real-time AI tech running on a phone. It's not even in the cloud.
Right.
It's entirely in-house developed. Our animation creator, animation's one of the hardest So there's a ton of people doing really interesting work in generative AI right now. It's mostly about making meshes. Meshes aren't the hard part of game development. They're hard, but they're not the hard part of content creation. You still have to do materials, you have to do texturing, and then animation.
So the mesh is the underlying thing
the
moves,
underlying
right?
shape of the character.
Yeah.
Right? So we jumped and we did the animation. So the way you create animations, the way I've switched to using it 100% of the time, you put your phone up, you just do whatever the motion was, it uploads it, and then inside Studio, which is our free creation tool, you get what are called quaternion splines. Like you get all the joint angles for the character. If you are familiar with that, you can then edit it in that space. If you're not, you can say, yeah, looks good. And so animation went from this tiny number of people can do it to anybody can create kind of baseline animation. Right? You're not going to be a Pixar quality animator, right? But it means that animation went from not accessible at a certain level to anyone can do it the first time.
So this isn't motion capture in the sense that most people understand then, right? It's just using something as a starting place.
There's no green screen.
Right.
It just uses video to figure out what the character animation is, and then we map it to whatever character you have, and we do all the blending stuff. So it's like Hollywood motion capture, but instead of $20,000 a second, it's completely free.
Right.
And anyone can use it. And so that was stuff we had released until this week. Friday, we turned on even more aggressive use of AI for creation, which is I'm super excited about. So we now have materials from text prompts. So I mentioned creating the shape is sort of step one, but then you got to paint the shape, and painting it means all the physical properties. It's not just the colors. So you have to say how rough the materials are, how shiny they are, how they reflect light in different ways. So that's a pretty sophisticated skill, and it's not even for none of the tools in the world are WYSIWYG for that. You're painting these kind of weird. It looks like you're making like topography maps or something. You just have to kind of know how it works. So we bypassed that whole pipeline. Like you can use professional tools like Substance Creator. You can paint in Photoshop. You can capture from photos. But live now on Studio and Roblox, you can type a text prompt.
So I can say, make it look like wood.
Yeah, you can say, and you can say not just wood. I want this to be varnished oak, planks that have been distressed, and it'll create that, and you can iterate with it, and then you take those materials you've created, and you can then put them into your experience. We'd always provided, we have sort of 16 canonical material types. And so you can say this is concrete, this is water, and then you can, on top of that, you could layer your own appearance. The reason we have canonical material types is everything is simulated. So going back to the early days, we have a physics simulator under everything. So in Roblox, if you have a table, it isn't just an empty 3D shape painted to look like wood, which is how most game engines work. It's actually wood. It knows it's wood. It knows how buoyant it is. It knows like what point it would fracture. It knows the density. So we need to know the materials. So we have 16 material categories. Then you can color them. And then now you can put your own custom materials on that. And you can do that as anyone, as an amateur. And just exploring the space of materials is really fun, right? And saying like, no, I wanted the bricks to be, rougher, or, sticking out more. Or I want them painted white.